This is Fritz Frivolous with continuous live coverage of the corner of Curious Lane and Just Because Boulevard, the epicenter of the alien invasion. And this just in, King Kong is fighting the Mobile Suit Gundam. And of course, all of this is happening amidst World War IV, making it pure pandemonium. If only Captain Planet were still alive to save us all. Dude, could you imagine?
You may not be thinking about it right now, but your brain is processing sensations from your environment at lightning speeds. Senses that you probably take for granted at every moment of your life. Imagine not being able to smell the fragrant bouquet of a freshly baked apple pie, not feeling the caress from your lover's hand, not being able to see the wonderful colors in the sky brought upon by a glorious sunset, not tasting any flavors of any food you eat, being unable to hear the laughter or cry of your newborn baby. What if you were going to lose all your senses but one? Which sense would you hope to keep? Let us use our sense of hearing and listen to our two senseis of senses as they try to feel their way to an answer.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Tom Case.
This is Will Stark.
Will, this one is kind of interesting because this wasn't recent, but I had watched a movie. I wish I could remember the name of it. It was about a disease that everyone contracted, right? Okay. And it was a global pandemic.
Was it outbreak?
No, it wasn't outbreak.
Contagion.
The virus, what it did was it slowly started to attack every one of your senses, right? And what would end up happening is, let's say it started to, affect your hearing, right? Everyone would go nuts in a certain way. Everyone would start to go crazy, right? Okay. Like, like some people would just start to go like angry. They would just become super angry at everything. It would be out of nowhere. And because this was like the way the virus worked, it would cause this kind of frenzy right before one of your senses gets taken away.
Okay.
So all of a sudden you'll go into this frenzy and then boom, your hearing's gone.
Okay.
And now you're back to normal, but now you're living with no hearing.
And were people just slowly losing all senses?
Yeah, and it started, and then the next one, people start going to frenzy again. Uh-huh. Boom, all of a sudden they're all blind. It was like everybody, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's insane. Okay, how does that movie end? Just go ahead and tell me how it ends.
It ended very sad. It kind of was going through different characters of the movie, like in different areas of the world, and you would kind of get like a storyline from each one, and it would show how each one was dealing with this disease.
Okay.
And the end one of them was, I think he was like a chef or something, and he was finally falling in love with this girl, right? And they finally fall in love, and boom, this pandemic happens, this virus happens, and they go through the whole thing with each other, and finally at the end, they were separated when they finally lost their last sense and they were blind, and they were trying to look for each other. And obviously
so they're blind and deaf.
Now they're blind, deaf.
So the whole world stops, right? If every single person on Earth is blind and
that's
deaf.
It. Yeah, that's what ends up happening. And it literally ends with, if I remember right, I think it ends with the last character, the guy that was falling in love with the girl. Mm-hmm. And man, it was kind of sad, but I think it just goes dark. Like, you see him trying to, like, fumble around because he's slowly becoming blind. Mm-hmm. And he so desperately wants to try to get back to that woman.
Right.
But he can't.
Right.
By that moment at that end, boom, he's blind. I think it just fades to black.
Yeah, I wonder what the overarching, like, message of the movie was. Having not seen it, I don't know.
But I think this might be something good probably for a future episode to be in old news. I'm going to have to try to search for that movie again and rewatch it, and I'll let you know. Okay. I thought it was very interesting.
It sounds bizarre but interesting.
Yeah.
But what's your question?
The question, if you haven't already figured it out.
I haven't.
What if you had to lose all of your senses but one? What would you choose if you could choose?
But one. Mm-hmm. So I can't taste or smell. Well, okay, give me your senses. I know you have parameters. Yeah, because exactly. We have more than 5, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So the parameters would be you contract a disease. Okay. The disease slowly takes away your senses until only one is left. Mm-hmm. Which would you hope would be saved, right? And so Actually, you know what? Let's go through these Fritz facts real quick, just to give you like a, just so everyone gets on the same page. So like with hearing, the sense of hearing is actually due to a response to mechanical stimuli because vibrations are converted into nerve impulses that the brain receives. Humans can hear up to 20 kilohertz. The human ear is made of 3 sections, and the middle ear contains the smallest bones in the body, known as the ossicles, the hammer, anvil, and the stirrup.
Yeah, it's 3 bones in the ear.
Then we have sight. We see when visible light is processed by the eye's components and translated into neural impulses that are processed by the brain. People blink roughly 15 times per minute on average. Everything would appear two-dimensional to a person with only one eye. Human eyes...
That's not true, but...
you lose I think perception. I think that's what
it
they're
doesn't
trying
become
to say.
2D. When I close one eye, Tom, it doesn't turn into a cartoon.
Yeah. Whoa, Will, you look flat as paper. I think what they meant was you lose the depth perception.
Yeah.
Human eyes are made of over 2 million working parts. Newborn babies see everything upside down until the brain learns to process everything right side up. I wonder how they would know that, if that even is true or not.
Well, I would imagine.
Oh, yeah,
I know that the image that is sent to your brain is sent upside down, and then you get used to it and it writes itself. And I've read that like if you hang upside down long enough, or if you view something upside down long enough, your brain will correct it after a time.
Really?
Yes, it's a thing.
Oh wow! See, I didn't know that. Mm-hmm. Then we have the sense of touch. The way the sense of touch works is complex. Simply put, a stimulus triggers activity in a sensory neuron, which then passes to the part of the brain that's assigned to the proper body location. One thing I find really interested on that is all that happens like within a split. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
speed of light.
Speed of light. The sense of touch is the first to develop in humans at about 8 weeks into the gestation period. Touch stimulates the brain to release endorphins, and blood pressure and heart rate can be reduced by a touch.
Yeah, it's true. Skin to skin contact and stuff like that. The thing about touch, though, is there's multiple touch senses. Like there's pressure and then there's temperature.
Oh yeah,
that's true. You can sense both.
I heard the same thing with people using animals like such as dogs or cats, like in people who are in a high stress situation or area, like let's say a prison or something, and they'll allow them to pet because that sensation of the soft fur or whatever kind of gets their blood pressure down and calms them down.
Yep.
And then we have taste. When a substance reacts chemically with the receptors of taste buds, the sensation of taste is created. People lose their perception of taste as they age. By age 20, half of their taste receptors are gone on average. A human's taste sense interacts with other senses and factors, including smell, texture, and temperature. The 5 basic tastes are saltiness, sourness, sweetness, bitterness, and umami.
Umami.
Yeah, that's my favorite one. Umami. The question is, how many tastes can a person really taste? And then the last we got smell. Is the good old olfactory perception sense. Smell happens in humans when the brain receives signals after molecules in the air bind to sites on olfactory receptors. Every person smells things differently. This is because the over 900,000 genetic variations of olfactory receptors. That lemon cake you smell and rave about to your friend, it might smell more like the inside of a shoe to your friend. Good smells can make you happier. Dogs recognize and identify humans first by scent. I think that should be obvious.
Yeah.
Odors I thought this was kind of funny. Odors can accelerate puberty, attract mates, and alter menstrual cycles in humans.
Yep. And it's also the sense most tied to memory.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I do remember that.
Yeah. So if I had to lose them all but one, number one, I don't think there's an answer to this question that doesn't suck.
Oh, yeah.
Because, like, losing feeling, you're basically not going to be able to function very well.
Yeah, exactly.
Although I guess you wouldn't feel pain very much, which is kind of nice, but dangerous.
I was going to say, that could be dangerous.
Dangerous, but at least there's, like, an upside to it. As long as, you're trying to be aware of, injuring yourself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
I don't know if I can see the upside, though.
Well, like, you'll never be uncomfortable.
Maybe, yeah. I would
if you
think
do
psychologically, I would feel uncomfortable. You know what I mean?
You'd have to get used to it over time.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's the rest of your life, after a year, you'll probably get used to it.
Man, if you can't feel the cool breeze on your skin, you know what I mean? The sunlight on your...
I bet it's a big one to get used to.
The caress of your spouse or whatever.
Right, absolutely. You know? Here's a question. Which sense do you think I would pick? I mean, I know my answer, but I'm curious to know what you think I would pick.
Oh, I feel like you and I would have the same answer.
Okay, and
we would save the sense of sight.
Nope.
Oh, it isn't?
God, no. Hell no. Well, my hearing 100,000%. I'm a musician, my friend.
Hearing?
There's no way. I can't live without music.
Yeah, you know what's funny about that? It was funny because while I was going through this in my head, a lot of times when I think of these questions, I do mock, go back and forth between you and I in my head, right? And in my head, I thought you were going to say sight. And
now throwing off your plans.
Yeah, exactly. So now that you didn't say sight, because like in my head, you know, I was thinking, well, he's going to say sight. And I was going to ask him, well, aren't you a musician? I was actually going to bring that up.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I was thinking about it. No, you went ahead and picked.
Not just am I a musician, but also, like, I'm a podcaster. That's another huge part of it. Like, that's an entire audio medium. I can still play Dungeons & Dragons with my ears. You know what I mean? I don't need to be able to see to play D&D. Like, it's just a roll of the dice and talking about stuff together. You know what I mean? True. And like I can keep track of my stats obviously I can't read Braille because I can't feel. So I'll have to keep track of my stats in my head, but I can do that. And then on top of that, like I know you were talking about like a caress of your lover. Like if I couldn't like have a conversation with like the people in my life, like I mean I'm a big talker. Communication is such a big part of like who I am.
Yeah.
Like I would go crazy.
See, I find that interesting because like see, I would probably, you bring up good points, first of all. Second of all, I'm still sticking with sight. I would definitely hope my sense of sight stays. But, you know, because with my sight, I would still be able to, like, read lips or read whatever
you'd find a way for sure. But it's like, I wouldn't want to not hear my fiance's voice again.
Yeah, I know that would, but the same goes for me with not seeing her.
But
face.
I can imagine what she looks like. You know what I mean?
But
I've seen her. I've known her my whole life.
That is true. But I just,
and I'm a very imaginative person. So for me, visualizing things is very easy. I love listening to.
Same with me.
I can listen to audiobooks, which you know me. I love stories. I love literature. I can still listen to it, and I process information better through audio than reading, anyways.
Yeah, my first thought came to like how would this affect me with my movies? Right?
I was just saying, and I don't even movies. Like. Okay, I got something to say, but go ahead.
I was just gonna say because of the fact that you know I could actually see both ways. Let's say if I did lose my sight but not my hearing,
right?
And I want to go listen to a movie, I do know my mind is definitely vivid when it comes to imagination, and whatever I'm hearing, I could just imagine what it's looking like,
right?
But I know that if I really had to choose, I would rather see what's happening on screen, and my mind does this thing where I can still imagine what it's sounding like too. Like I could hear it in my head.
Sure,
you know.
When you know me, I'm not big on watching things, and with the baby at home, there are times when I got baby because mama needs to sleep, and usually my goal is get baby to sleep because baby needs to sleep. And when baby sleeps on me, I'm stuck to the couch because if I move, he's going to wake up. So I'm stuck there for anywhere from an hour to 3 hours, which guess what? What that means? It means I'm either playing video games or watching TV, and I don't always have access to the console. So it's been a lot of watching TV. And dude, I'm so fucking sick of watching anything. Like I'm so sick of watching anything. Like my fiance, you know, we like to watch stuff together. You know, we watched Dark Crystal. That was good. We watched Castlevania. But I'm at a point now where it's like she wants to watch something, and I'm just like, sure. I want to spend time with you, but I don't even want to watch anything.
Yeah,
because I'm a doer. I like to make music. I like to write stuff, whether it's my podcast stuff or more D&D, because I'm about to run a D&D game with my fiance and my sister, and that's going to be fun. I'm doing the gardening. I'm doing the cooking. I'm a doer. I'm not a sit-and watcher, and I've been sitting and watching, and luckily I love my baby so much that I can sit and watch, but man, I'm sick of watching TV.
Man, I just imagine if something like this were to afflict somebody that has an infant at home, you know, if you were to keep the sight and not have the sense, you would have to be looking after your baby all the time, constantly. Because if right now, like if you had the hearing, right, and you've put the baby down somewhere. Well, at least if you did go and try to do something, you could hear if the baby was like,
but
crying, choking, or something.
Sight only,
you would always have to constantly.
You could do things like we've done things with him where it's like we leave the iPad in the room with him with FaceTime on, and then we have FaceTime on the phone. That's so good. There are ways around that. This is now we're veering way off subject, but because we're so close to it, I gotta say it. Like, dude. One of the things about parenthood that I have learned very quickly is the near constant state of high anxiety and paranoia of anything happening to your kid. Yeah. It is every fucking moment that he's in my arms. It's just, what if I drop him? What if I slip? Man. What if he does this? And it's just constant. And it's exhausting. But anyways,
I don't have kids, so I can't even. Dude,
it's rough. But, and I was talking to Michelle about it because she already has a little one before we had this little one, and she's like, I thought it was going to be twice as bad. It's twice as bad. Yeah, it's just constant now for both of them for her.
Real quick too, something that when you mentioned that, it's like I do have nieces, and I was there for when they were born and stuff, right? And I remember sometimes when I'd go visit my brother and. He would like, go ahead, hold Mina, which is my oldest niece, or hold Kaya, my youngest niece. Yeah. Like I had that fear of like, I didn't want to drop them.
No,
I didn't
totally. I know like, that.
I see all these other people, everyone else I know, like, oh yeah, let me hold the baby, let me do this, and I'm like, why would you do that? You know what I mean? Like the only one time, dude, seriously, the only one time that I held my nieces, I had to be sitting on the couch. They had to put a pillow on my lap, a blanket around my waist, because just in case, like if they wriggled around, and then they placed the baby onto the pillow where I would wrap my hands around. That's how I would do it. Because I was so like, I don't want anything to happen.
Totally. And that's definitely how I was at first. I will say there's an art to holding the baby. And once you know what he is capable of when it comes to his neck, specifically in the head, you get a lot more comfortable. Because I put him in my arms and I spin and I do all kinds of stuff. Even though I just said I'm paranoid and anxious all the time. But that anxiety goes into my dreams and stuff. Like I'll literally just be, I don't know, driving down the freeway and I'll just think about like, I don't know, ancient times when plague and famine would hit. I'm like, what did all those poor people with infants had to, do to survive, and how many infants passed, and like, I'm thinking about infants like lost in the wild because their parents just died, and I'm like having a fucking crisis. Yeah. And that's my day to day now.
I mean, enough of them had to have been doing something right to have.
Oh yeah, sure. Right? But it's like, these things happen, and just the idea of these poor babies across history that have all passed in terrible ways. They're giving me fucking crises while I drive down the freeway. But you don't have a choice. They're intrusive thoughts. Anyways, what was your question again?
I know, right? Actually, okay, going back to the question, you just brought something up where you said like those fears and anxieties even creep into your dreams. Yeah. You know what I wonder is if you're blind or deaf, like, and you dream, can you hear or see things in your dream? That probably would have to be, right? Because when you're dreaming, though, you're not physically using your eyes or your...
no, it's all electrical impulses input, in your brain. But that comes down to, like, if you were born without sight or not. Like,
yeah, that's what I would think. Like, if you were born and you didn't have... I don't think you would see what we would perceive as things to see in a dream.
How could you? There would just
exactly, because your brain doesn't have that reference.
Exactly. There's no context for it. Yeah. But yeah, I would definitely choose hearing, and it's for the reasons I said, my music, my
that you say it,
podcast,
I'm like, that makes sense.
My passions, just my personality. Like, I'm such a talker. Like, I like to get into in-depth conversations. I mean, that's why we started this podcast.
That's true. I know.
I can't imagine what life would be like without any of this.
We should finish out this podcast with, I'm going to plug my ears, right? So I can't hear anything, and you should blindfold yourself. No. Well, let's look into, like, what if, okay, obviously now we know which senses we would want to have, or which sense we would want to have left over and why. But, like, let's kind of dive into some of the other ones. What if we didn't have taste? I would be so sad. Really? I would be so sad. I know you're like, oh, I don't care.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I would not be thrilled, but I would be like, all right, let's turn this into the positive. Now it doesn't matter what the fuck I ate, so I'm going to have the perfect goddamn diet that's going to pair with this. But I mean, I would be bummed about it, but I would find the pros versus the cons.
Yeah, time really would be the factor here, because let's say we did lose everything, you know, or let's say we have everything, but you lost the taste, you know, like over time, you'd be able to get over anything. I think everyone should be able to get over something, you know what I mean, over enough time.
Yeah, to a certain degree. Yeah.
But yeah, that would just
suck.
be so sad.
Yeah.
Especially being able to see other people eat something and you know they're enjoying it because they're
I feel like there was a musician. I think it was the singer in NXS? I think he had a thing where he had an accident and he lost his sense of smell and taste.
Ooh.
Yeah, and it fed into his depression. You know, he killed himself, I'm pretty sure.
Wow.
And I don't know if I got all that information right. That's what I remember. I remember it was NXS, the singer. He did kill himself, but I know he had either a sickness or an injury or something where he lost his taste and his smell.
Oh man, that would suck.
Yeah, that would suck.
Yeah, I don't know about that. Like the sense of touch, like if you lost your sense of touch, that would be rough.
That would be rough.
That would be rough. I don't even know, like, how would you...
I think that one would be very difficult to just get used to your day to day because you'd have to be very spatially aware. As someone who's exceptionally clumsy, and I mean exceptionally fucking clumsy, it's a daily part of my life for the last 32 years. And I would be very difficult. I would be banging myself up really bad.
I would expect someone who doesn't have a sense of touch to have to always do visual checks of their body too, because you never know what if you have some kind of a skin affliction.
You have to do a daily inspection. It's true.
You would have to like look, and especially if you fell down. Yeah, man, how would you know? You know what I mean? Like you just fell down. You don't have this pain. Or nothing,
you have no reference for.
So you would know if you broke a bone, maybe. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like that would just be
a lot of doctor visits. Make sure you have the best medical insurance. That's all I would have to say about not having touch.
Yeah,
is make sure you have the best medical insurance you could possibly get.
Now, I know, don't get me wrong, because I do know how important the sense of smell is, but I do kind of feel like if I really did have to get rid of one, let's switch this question up. If you had to choose one to get rid of, honestly, I think I might have to get rid of smell, even though I do understand that smell
and taste
they're very tied together.
We're treating them as separate in this. I see what you're saying, and I almost agree. I don't know. Smell's rough because I think smell is much more subtle in how it affects your day to day. Like I think we even scent is so important in our personal relations, especially with, you know, our lovers, you know.
Oh yeah.
And I can't imagine losing that, you know. It's a part of intimacy. Yeah. And I feel like that you're missing something if you lose that. That's saying losing your taste instead that's a big personal hit. Yeah. I think I would lean towards I would give up taste over smell, but it's close for me.
Yeah, I think it would edge out for me just to smell because like I just feel the only thing to me I honestly feel like smell like really helps you out in, let's say, dangerous situations would be something like you know, maybe you left the stove on and you smell that gas or you know, something like that. But a lot of times now, you know, you have some of the like CO2 detectors and things like that where it'll give you a visual and hearing clue. That's true. To the danger.
You would be very, very good at jobs that require you to do something that smells very bad.
Yeah, so that's true. Yeah. Work in a waste management place or something, you know.
Yeah, so if I had to give up one scent, if I had to give up one sense and none of the others, it would be taste. If I had to hold on to one sense and give up all the others, it would be hearing.
Yeah, for me, I would. If I had to get rid of one sense, it would be smell, and if I had to keep one and lose all the rest, it would be sight. Dude, could you imagine?
Breaking news, a new study suggests leaving an iTunes review is very important for newly created podcasts. So to nurture your new favorite podcast, make sure to leave an iTunes review. This has been Fritz Frivolous, reminding you to like, comment, and subscribe. Will and Tom, back to you.
Oops. Imagine you were doing stuff and then things happen. Oh, hey, how you doing, Tom? Good. So you're hard at work? Yep. Just recording my stuff now. Well, it's getting close to midnight, so You better hurry up and get that done, okay? Thanks.
Okay, sure. I will. You gotcha.
And we're back.
Mm-hmm.
So, I told you this earlier when you and I saw each other, but I recently finally got myself a PS5.
Oh, yes, you were telling me.
And this prompted this question.
Okay.
Will.
Okay.
What if you could create your own video game?
Oh, okay. I think about this all the time. So.
Yeah, good. Well,
I do, actually. I think about this all the time.
That is good. That is
if
good.
I were to create any video game I want, it would be an SRPG or a tactical RPG in which
an SRPG?
Yeah, which stands for strategy RPG.
Oh, okay.
Also known as a tactical RPG. They used to be called tactical RPGs, but I've noticed over the last 8 years, everyone calls them SRPGs.
Man, I must be out of the loop for that because I know RPG and I know MMORPG, but
well, I mean,
I haven't.
You know what an RPG is?
Yeah,
and then a tactical game.
Like, do you have an example of a video game of
Final Fantasy Tactics, Fire Emblem?
Okay, so that would be a tactical RPG.
Yeah, or an SRPG. What's another? Ogre Tactics. That's another one. There's not a lot of them. There's a mech one. What's it called? Advanced Wars. That's another one.
I haven't heard these. Well, except for the Final Fantasy one, I haven't heard.
Right. I guess tactical RPGs aren't the most popular thing on earth. I love them. But, so I would do a tactical RPG, and for those who don't know, it's essentially a turn-based system in which you control certain amount of units on a, gridded board system, but not a board. So, let's say it's a fantasy theme, right? And, you have a party of adventurers, and they get into a fight in a forest, right? So what'll happen is the game will generate a 20 by 30 square grid of forests. And there'll be trees and elevation and rivers and all that other stuff. And you can move, each of your units has a turn, and you can move them, and they have different abilities that you can do in combat and whatnot. And that's a tactical RPG.
Oh, okay.
So I would do a tactical RPG. And if it wasn't a directly D&D, affiliated, title,
yeah,
it would be not a D&D ripoff, but it would be a D&D ripoff. Is what it would be. So basically, what I want to do,
it would be in the parentheses.
Basically, what I'm trying to do is the sequel to Final Fantasy Tactics, but way better. Which is saying something, because Final Fantasy Tactics makes my top 5 games of all time. I fucking love that game.
Ooh, okay.
But anyways, tactical RPG, I would basically design it in such a way where you have 5 units, and you get to build all 5 of your units at the beginning. By picking their class and race. And then I basically want 5 to 8 classes, but each of those can divide into 2 or 3 subclasses. So you can, the replayability would be just so much fun of taking a different race and class combo and then going down different subclass. Plus you have 5 units. So it's you can build all these different teams.
Oh, okay.
And I'm going to drink this water and I'm going to keep talking. Now, the thing about tactical RPGs is they're very combat heavy a lot of the time, which is fine because, it's tactics, right? It's war game stuff. It's fun. But Final Fantasy Tactics has a fantastic story. So I would lean heavily into the narrative, but I would also try and create a mechanic where there is some sort of each class has different out of combat abilities. It probably wouldn't be as in depth as the combat stuff, because the combat stuff is going to make up 80% of the game. But I would want maybe there's some sort of dungeon exploration mechanic, or I don't know. Let's say you have a ranger character. Maybe there's some sort of benefit to wilderness exploration on off days or whatever, and then based off different materials you gather, you can either craft certain items or trade for certain rare materials or something like that. It's not that, I don't have it that well thought out, but basically each class, whether it's a wizard, a fighter, a rogue, a ranger, a paladin, whatever, they would have something to do outside of combat, and there would be some sort of I don't know, maybe you're building a community, or maybe it's just dungeon delving or something. I don't know what it would be, but I would definitely want something where it's not entirely combat, because if I have any criticism for Final Fantasy Tactics, and I don't, but if I did, it would be that there isn't much to do outside of just combat.
Oh, I see. So you do want a story in there. You want something that not just story, but like you want something for them to be able to do that's other than fighting. Like if you could have puzzles in there that you may have to do, or like maybe some other objective. You want more objectives than just fighting.
Exactly.
And winning.
Yeah.
That gets repetitive.
It does. It can. And then I would just work really hard with the team on world building, lore, and make the world feel real and rich, which Final Fantasy Tactics does. Fire Emblem doesn't do as well most of the time. Fire Emblem Three House did, though. That was pretty good.
Would you have it like earlier when you were saying with like building your, like your character or whatever and all this stuff and whatever their skills may be and everything? I'm assuming like, is there going to be a progression? Or can you get all this stuff like at the beginning? Oh
no, it's going to be progression for sure. So like, honestly, one of the things that I would like to like theoretically do is, Dungeons and Dragons has had 5 editions thus far, and editions 1 through 3 and 5 are all not very similar, but you can tell you're playing the same game. But then there's 4th edition, which is the most controversial edition of any RPG ever made. I personally love it. But it is drastically different combat-wise from every other D&D. And it is pretty much like, I would say it's controversial, but the controversy is that 80% of all D&D fans fucking hate it. With a burning passion. And I've always been one to say if it hadn't been called 4th edition, if it was like a spin-off called like D&D Tactics, it would have gone over way better. Because I personally think that the way combat plays, which is very much like a tactical RPG, people like to say it's very... World of Warcraft, which I actually disagree with. It's way more like a tactical RPG than anything else. I think the mechanics of the combat are so tight and good and fun. And like the tactics of 4th edition are so rewarding. It's everything else that suffers though, which in a role-playing game, there's, it's obvious that's the reason why there's such backlash. But I would literally, if I could, go into 4th edition and lift all the combat powers and stuff, literally just lift it and transfer it over, and it would be one of the greatest tactical RPGs of all time.
Oh, really?
And that's what I would do. Yeah. I would do 4th edition D&D, the tactical RPG game, and just rebrand it and change the names of everything so that D&D can't sue me.
So that exactly. Yeah. So that it would be technically like your own game.
Yeah, and I would do sprite art. It would all be like high-end pixelated sprite art.
Oh, okay.
So it'd be really pretty and colorful. And that would be difficult to animate, but it would be beautiful to look at. I love pixel art. And so a pixel art RPG, it's basically, I'm taking Final Fantasy Tactics, 4th edition D&D, slamming them together and putting my own name on it. It's going to be beautiful. Anyways, it'll never happen, but that's what I would make.
That actually sounds pretty good. That's a pretty good idea.
What would you make?
So so first of all, let me say this. My favorite game is God of War.
Oh, it's a good game.
So when I was thinking about this question, my first thought was like, I would make like another God of War. I would do this. And I started thinking about that and I was like, no, you know what? I was like, the people, I think it's Santa Monica Studios makes that game. And I was like, they're doing fine with it. I love God of War. I love what they're doing with it.
Yeah.
I don't think I would try to touch and go in and making like another God of War, that type of game.
Right.
And while I was thinking of this, I was also thinking what I've been recently playing, which is a game called Cities Skyline, right? And it's a sim builder, right? You basically build your own like city. And I started thinking about it, but I was like, I love the game, but sometimes I wish that it could be on a grand scale. And I would maybe try to make something called like the Simuverse or something like that, right?
The Simuverse, I like that.
And I think that this game would be such an undertaking that I don't know if like any developer, right? Actually, quick,
would go for it.
The parameters of this was supposed to be your favorite video game developer asks you what type of game you can make, and I forgot to ask you if you even have a favorite developer.
That's tough. So young me would have said Square Enix. Older me is more jaded and pragmatic than that. Although Square Enix have been doing cool stuff lately. If I picked anybody, let me get back to you on that. I'm gonna think about it.
Let me finish my whole train of thought. The reason I brought that up though was because Santa Monica Studios is one of my favorite developers because they develop God of War.
Yeah.
But anyways, I don't think that there is a developer. I don't even know if like they can do this, if the technology, if the consoles can even handle a game like this. What I would want to do is have it to where you can literally expand and go out into the universe and create your own galaxy or solar system, if you will. And it would just be your broad strokes. Like, this is my planet. This is where I'm locating my sun. My sun's going to have these many planets rotating around it at this distance, at these speeds, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah,
right?
The Simuverse.
Yeah, exactly. And then if you're done doing that and you're like, well, I kind of like this one planet right here that I made. Now you could go into the planet mode, right? And now you can start messing everything you want with the planet. What type of maybe gases are on this planet? Is it an all gaseous planet? Is it like Earth? Is it going to have water? Is it going to have land? Is it going to have, whatever? What's the heat on there? That you can mold all yourself.
So, I mean, this sounds great. And if it existed, I would be very into it. I would be playing it a lot. But, what you're talking about would take a supercomputer.
Exactly. Yeah. That's why I don't think that there's any way, maybe far in the future. With,
I think one day, well, theoretically,
PS25, comes out. Maybe PlayStation 25.
I think it's possible. And I think if we get there, it will happen. Yeah. Your game will exist.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I hope so, because that would just be, I mean, do you know how many hours? Almost a lifetime that you could play this game. And it would be, and after you're done creating your people and your cities on this one planet, and then the countries, and then the planet itself, and then the solar system, and then the galaxy, and you could move on to the next galaxy. You know what I mean? Like, it would just be so huge and big. Yeah. So I know that wouldn't be an undertaking. So my next thought was, what I wish they could just add to City Skyline. And I think I've told you about this before. I thought it would have been such a cool idea if they had this, because there's crime in the cities, right? So you have to build police stations and you have to build fire departments, whatever, that kind of stuff. So, but I always thought, it'd be cool if they had where, if you start, let's say, building your cities, right? And you start building certain types of buildings that maybe it starts to look like Gotham. Right. And then all of a sudden, when you have these crimes happening, as long as you build and hit certain goals, you will get a vigilante or a superhero. Yeah. Right. And I just thought that would have been such, and you can't control them. I mean, that'd be cool. Like that, but I thought it would be cool to see, like, all of a sudden you start getting notifications like a new, like, hey, a new crime wave started. This is what your local news has been saying. Right. And when you see that, and you see that your police force can't deal with it, maybe all of a sudden, boom, you're like, hey, this masked vigilante has been starting to, you know what I mean? Like, I thought that would have been so cool.
I mean, that would be cool. I think what it is a lot of simulation games focus more on, like, how much can we simulate real life? Versus,
I know.
But I mean, that's a cool idea.
But and that's why I thought that's something that, they can do. And I really hope they will do. And then maybe someday in the future, they'll do my Simuverse when PlayStation 25 comes out.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think even the game I pitched, I know it doesn't sound intensive, but the breadth of what I'm talking about, like the subclasses and being able to mix and match all that other stuff and have this robust combat, and then on top of it have all this out of combat stuff that would also, I would want to be rewarding and robust, on top of a beautiful pixel art, on top of a very intensive story. It would be a huge undertaking for any developing company, which reminds me, I just picked who I would, if I could be approached by anybody. Oh, yeah, that's right. It would be Supergiant Games. They are the ones who created Hades, and they're the ones. Oh, that's right. And they're the ones who created Bastion. Both very, very good games, very beautiful games, and games that they really poured themselves into and went above and beyond. If they put that same effort into my brainchild, I would just be the happiest guy on earth.
Hades was such a good game, and if you can tell, it was such a good game, but it was highly frustrating.
Honestly, once you got over the skill hump, like, dude, I was thrashing Hades' ass. Really? Like, dude, I with every weapon. It didn't matter which weapon I had. Like, I figured out a way. You get better at it. It's a skill thing.
I think those are the type of games that I need more patience with. Because games like, let's take my favorite game, like God of War. What you were saying with your game, how you were talking about, you would want them, you would want to have something more than just fighting, and that's what you do. God of War easily could have been that. Yeah. And it would not have been the game it is today if that's what they did with it. Right. But, it's, you know what I mean? Like, Hades is fighting. And yet they did it in such a way where it wasn't boring. You know what I mean? And it wasn't like...
It's the dialogue, dude. The sheer amount of dialogue and the quality of voice acting. Phenomenal.
They knew what they needed to fill in the gaps with, and they did it. I'd say they perfected it. They did it perfectly, I thought. Yeah. Like, you're right, especially with the voiceover, the voice acting and all that. I thought it was like really good.
Did you picked your studio, right? It was Santa Monica?
Yeah, I was going to Santa Monica Studios.
For sure.
Even though I'll be honest with you, I can't really think of any like other than God of War that they did. It's just because that's how much I love God of War.
I'm sure they have done other things, but God of War is great.
Yeah.
And the newest one, well, it's not even new anymore. It's like 4 years old at this point, but very good.
And I'm dying to play the sequel because they're working on a sequel right now to that
For sure.
one.
For sure.
And I can't wait for that one. Real quick, let's go to some of these Fritz facts that I have. So as of 2020, there are more gamers than ever. An estimated 2.7 billion people played video games in 2020 alone. They believe that the increase was likely due to the global pandemic. But still,
well, I mean, I'm sure it's been increasing anyways.
Yeah.
Like, think about when you were a kid, like...
Can I remember that far back?
I just mean, like, your generation is probably, like, basically the first generation of kids that were like playing consoles at home.
Mm-hmm.
I think anyone older than you, that wasn't happening.
Yeah.
But now you're about to be 40.
Anyone older than me, if they were playing video games, they were already an adult by that point. Because they only had like an Atari system.
Yeah, there was like Pong.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but what I'm trying to say is like, and you're encroaching on 40, and
well, I am 40, but thanks.
Okay, you are 40.
Thanks for saying that. Will.
Okay, you are 40. Think about like now you've reached an age where over half the population is your age or younger.
Oh yeah,
and true. The majority of gamers fall into that age range. So yeah, it's just going to keep growing. Eventually, we'll be in our 70s.
Yeah,
and literally that number, that 2.7 billion, will probably be like 5.5 billion.
Yeah, it would be because I know I don't care how old I get.
Yeah, I'm
going to always want to play video games.
We're going to be working on Final Fantasy 22.
Yeah, and I hope that it's like I hope I get an implant into my back of my cerebellum or the you know what I mean, and it just jacks me and I'm in the game. I'm waiting for that technology.
Yeah, absolutely.
The game I was explaining though that I would love to make, the Simuverse. I would also try to put some kind of VR element into that, like to where you can literally move your hands, grab things to create this and that.
Yeah, VR stuff would be cool too.
Yeah.
I'm curious to know what you thought I was going to say when you asked me what kind of video game I would make.
Oh, you know what? In my head, I was thinking that you would make something actually probably with music. Not necessarily like a rock band.
Oh, that's another thing. I would want like top-notch orchestrated music.
Well, in the parameters, which I didn't get to read, but one of the things that says you have full creative control. Now, if you had that, would you yourself write the music?
No, I would. I don't have the talents for the type of music. No, not for the type of music I would want. Nobuo Uematsu, who's the main composer over like a majority of the Final Fantasy games, he's near the end of his life. Like, I don't know if he'll ever compose much for any video games moving forward at all. But like, if I got to like pick anybody out of time to do it, of course I would pick him. He's probably the greatest to ever do it. I don't know who, if I couldn't pick him in this scenario, I probably couldn't. I don't know who I'd choose.
That would be difficult. Yeah. You would have to probably just do one of those things, like a audition, like see who, like, hey, give me a sample of it. Right?
Yeah. I'd have to put some more thought into it. I haven't thought that far.
Yeah. Here's one thing both of our games, I guess, technically wouldn't really fall in the category of. Video games have become a major spectator sport. It's no secret that esports have exploded in the recent years, but the extent of their popularity might surprise you. For the past several championships, the League of Legends World Competition has drawn more viewers than the Super Bowl or NBA Finals.
Yeah, because it's worldwide.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I'm not a League of Legends fan. I don't like MOBA games.
Yeah,
MOBA games are not my deal. But I do like watching Smash tournaments. It's been a long time since I've done that, but I remember I was watching pretty religiously all the big tournaments, and it's fun. It's always fun to watch the people who are the best of the world do their thing.
Yeah,
it's just impressive, and it's
a different type of entertainment too when it's the esports, because like I'm not into those games, but I do like watching them. Sometimes they'll come up on my YouTube feed or whatever, and I'll watch it because it's entertaining. You know what I mean? Yeah. To see two people who are like the best in the world,
absolutely,
and they're going at it.
Like I don't remember if you were there, but I was watching. This was like right before the pandemic. I don't even remember the name of the tournament. It was like the biggest tournament of the year, but it was...
I do remember you watching this.
The best player in the world at the time, MK Leo. I'm not up to date, so I could be like way off of who's the best now. But MK Leo playing Joker, and then my favorite player, Mars, playing my main 06 Samus. Dude, those finals were wild. And my man Mars, he did it, man. It was so much fun.
I remember when you were watching it. I
was
remember
wild,
the crowd
dude.
and the commentators.
The highlights,
oh my God.
The highlights were crazy. They were doing shit with their characters I didn't know was possible. But anyways, esports.
Well, that was the end of I was very surprised that they drew. I mean, not surprised, but like, people who watch the Super Bowl and the NBA Finals, like that's in the how many of millions? You know what I mean?
But
like,
again, both of those are American centric, man.
Yeah,
like,
that's true. They're not,
especially
they may not be global.
In today's world. Like America makes up so little of the population in the grand scheme of things. It's still one of the top 5 most populous countries in the world. But like when you put like all of Europe or China and stuff in their viewership, it's just going to way outstrip us. Yeah.
And you do bring up a good point when you said that about it being global, is because when you're playing these games, especially when you play them online, any type of multiplayer game, you could be playing. Like I remember I was playing Battlefield, and I was playing at 3 or 4 in the morning, and I was on a team, because I was just playing by myself. I get put onto a team and the squad, and they were all Australians.
Oh, that's
you know
cool.
what I mean?
That's
so
fun.
it was so funny, and like
even the Smash tournaments I watched, like MK Leo, he's Mexican, and I mean in that tournament, Mars happened to be American, but there's a lot of Japanese players that come over too. And like they can't all speak the same languages necessarily. I mean, MK Leo also does speak English, but like it's international. The tournament itself is international, and people are watching from around the world. So
that's one thing that I like about it. It's not, you're right, it is global, so it's going to be. There's a lot of people who can play video games. The other thing too that you were talking about with my age group. There was a different. I do remember growing up, and you have to ask, "Oh, do you play this? Oh, do you game?" And going through all the years and the different like stages of my life, it's definitely increasing. Yeah. Because now I can almost ask anyone who's remotely around my age. Yeah. And the answer is, "Oh yeah, I play this game, or I'll play that, or whatever."
And I'm sure you dealt with this, but I definitely did, and I remember all the way up in almost through high school, like people would be like, "Oh, you play video games? That's lame." And like I was always not say a proud gamer, but I loved my video games. They were like as precious to me as my music was, and so excuse me.
Don't get choked up.
No, but I love to talk about the things I love, and that includes video games. And but I remember having to deal with like you never knew when someone was going to say something nasty about it. Yeah, and I'm hopeful it's not as much like that in high school as it was when I was. But I definitely, as an adult, I feel like that stigma is almost completely vanished at this point.
Yeah, I think it has. Yeah. I don't remember a lot of people saying that, like when they growing up, that they found out like if I played video games a lot. I do remember most of it was a lot of my friends didn't have the consoles or the games that I had. And I remember, it was always like, oh yeah, I'm going to be your friend. Hey, can we go over and play video games? And both me and my brother, unless they were like really close friends, were like, no, we can't have any. You know what I mean? We're like, we know you just want to come over to play.
I know. Some of my most precious memories as a kid was like gaming it up with my buddies, like all day, all weekend, like and just having a blast. And even today, like me, my fiance, and my stepdaughter, we game it up together all the time. Yeah. And like when Liam gets older, he's gonna do it too, probably. And we're like we game as a family, and it's fun.
But dude. Your son will be able to get a whole new different experience of gaming, because like when you and I were gaming when we were growing up, you had to literally figure it out yourself. Sure. You got this game, you either rented it or you bought it, and you had to sit there and you had to figure it out, or at the very least you had to either read or call Nintendo the game if you had Nintendo. Yeah. Right? And if you're playing another game, I don't know if they had hotlines. Yeah. But I know they had the video game Nintendo hotline and I only called like once or twice. Yeah, I never did that, yeah. But like now you just go on YouTube. Now everyone who's already someone played, he's like, oh, this is how you get past this part.
That's true, but like, okay, we're going to use my stepdaughter. She's 7. Like, she doesn't have that benefit. She's not allowed to go on YouTube. She's not allowed to go online. Oh, okay. Oh, hell no. So that's right. So YouTube is not a place for kids. I'm sorry. And especially, like, if you really get into the dark side of YouTube, which is very easy to find, like, it is not a place for kids.
I didn't think that even the kids' YouTube, like, you could put that little whatever.
Yeah, I don't even mess with that.
I don't think they have gaming on there.
Oh no, they don't. Yeah. But even that place isn't as safe as you would want it to be. But so no, she gets stumped all the time, and she has, she doesn't know what to do. She has to figure it out on her own. But I see your point.
Yeah.
I see your point.
Speaking of kids, though, so one of the facts here is gaming definitely isn't just for kids. According to a recent study, the average age of a gamer.
Let me guess, 37.
Close. 34. That was very close. 34. Which just goes to show that the market is growing far beyond just kids and teens. As more generations grow up with video games, undoubtedly the demand and variety of options will grow. Yeah. We can't wait to see where that goes.
Yeah. I mean, this whole parental leave I've had, I've been chilling with my son and my family and doing all kinds of other stuff. But one of the great things is me and my fiance, we've been gaming it up with Final Fantasy 14, the MMO. Man, it's been fun. Yeah. Doing dungeons together, just rolling around the map together. It's been a good time. That's
one thing I do have to tell. And if anyone's out there listening and you're single at the moment and you want to find your soulmate and you love the game, find someone else who loves the game.
Sure, yeah.
Because my wife loves the game. Actually, I may have already said this story on one of the other episodes, but one of the things that I knew when I loved her, was she was like, I was like, oh, you play video games? Oh, yeah, I play video games. What do you play? And she's like, oh, I play like Call of Duty, some of my friends. And I'm like, sure, you play Call of Duty, right? I'm thinking like, me, I grew up in the era where not many girls would play any video games, right? Yeah. So I'm thinking, oh, okay, yeah, sure, you play video. You play Call of Duty.
I never had that stigma because I grew up with my sister playing video games.
Yeah. It was only me and my brother in the house.
I get it, yeah.
But like, so I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, you play Call of Duty. And she's like, yeah. I was like, okay, you want to play? And I'm like, she's like, yeah.
Did she kick your
ass?
Then
she kicked my ass, dude, like big time.
That's what you get.
Yeah, I know. It is what I got too. And it was at that moment I looked over and I was like, I was like everything was blurry around her except for her and her controller.
That's one thing I'll say. I hate shooters. I know this isn't. We don't need to have this conversation right now. I just don't like first-person shooters. But anyways.
Well, if you want to talk about the worst game of all time, I know you hate shooters.
E.T.
Yes. E.T. And I had that game. And I remember talking to my brother's 4 years older than I am. And I remember talking to him going like, Jerry, what am I doing on this game? Right? I have the specific memories of asking him, what do I do? And I remember him going like, I don't know, dude. Just go around, look for like, you know what I mean? Like, it was such an awful game that you didn't know what exactly you were doing.
Well, I'll tell you one thing about that game. That game was developed by one person, and he did it in 6 months because that was the time he was given, and so he did the best he could.
That's true, but man, it was just so bad.
Yeah.
But dude, could you imagine?
And now it's time for old news.
Hello, everybody. It's Will and Tom with old news. So, Will, we actually had an email come in from Jules Feng.
Okay. Thank you, Jules.
Thank you, Jules. And you know what? They actually said that they had a question that was inspired by the Beholder in D&D.
Okay.
Can you give a quick explanation, just in case if we have listeners who are not into D&D, what a Beholder is?
Beholder is a D&D original monster. It is a bizarre aberration. It is a spherical or orbular monster with a single great eye and gaping maw in its body. And it has 10 eye stalks above that. Each eye stalk can shoot off a different like beam. With that, they're devastatingly powerful. Genius intellect, megalomaniacal, absolutely insane.
Something you do not want to mess with.
No, you don't fuck with Beholders. It's Year of the Beholder on the Dungeon Cast, so we've been doing a lot of Beholder lore. Yeah. I guess that's the basics on Beholder.
Jules was saying that it was inspired by the Beholder, and he says, what if you made things you dreamt a reality?
Beholders do that, yeah.
Oh, yeah. And he was saying, or Jules Feng was saying, not necessarily in like a future predicting kind of way, but if you dreamt you were on vacation in Hawaii and you woke up in Hawaii or something like that, or if I thought this was interesting. And it's because Jules did not, they did not listen to episode 17, Nightmare on Greek Street yet. Because when I wrote back to Jules, Jules was like, oh, I didn't, see that one. I didn't listen to that episode yet. So I was like, okay. And I told them that, we kind of already talked about in this episode.
We did, yeah.
But they had an interesting twist on here. Or if you dreamt in third-person view and you woke up and you spent the whole day looking at yourself in third person.
We didn't talk about that. A lot of times I do dream in the third person.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Especially in my more, remember I told you my cinematic dreams? Mm-hmm. Like, they're not only cinematic because of, like, the things happening, but I'm getting cinematic shots. So it's like I'm watching a movie of myself. Yeah. And other people as well.
I'm trying to think now if I ever really had it in third person. I mean, I can't. All of the dreams that I actually can remember, I never remember it being third person. It's always, looking at it through my own eyes.
Yeah, for me, it's like 75% first person, 25% third person.
Man, could you imagine actually like waking up and then you're like, like you
have
wake
to operate
up.
the character from outside
yeah,
the
right?
avatar.
Like imagine just waking up at first. Mm-hmm. Waking up and you're not opening your eyes in your bed. Mm-hmm. You're above yourself. Right. Right? And seeing your own eyes open like you just awoke.
I feel like it would be so difficult to operate yourself. It would be like, have you ever played the old either Silent Hill or Resident Evil games? Yeah, and how difficult it is to control your character. You're bumping into stuff. Like, true. You'd be knocking stuff over. It'd be a disaster.
I could see that.
You would be like, oh my God, just turn to the right. And he just refuses to turn to the right.
I know.
It'd be a disaster.
Oh man, your toes and shins would be eaten up, man, by like everything you're bumping into.
Absolutely.
But dude, could you imagine?
And that has been Old News. And that is all we have for you tonight. We will continue to bring you up-to-date coverage as new imaginings develop. Please don't forget to leave an iTunes review, like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Remember, you can follow us on YouTube and on Twitter at DCYimagine. And if you would like to contact us or tell us what you are imagining, you can email us at dudecouldyouimagine@gmail.com. This has been Fritz Frivolous, and from all of us here at Dude Could You Imagine, keep on imagining.
Nice. That was a good one. And I think it was short too, but it was good.
Actually, well, lately we've been doing short ones, and this one's 23 minutes. That's not bad.
I right now, for at least for this recording and next recording, them being short is a good thing because I do got to get home to my baby ASAP.